Let's start with the allegations. Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Controversial influencer Andrew Tate speaking publicly for the first time in an interview with the BBC about allegations he trafficked women along with his brother and two other women. Johnny Depp's lawyer Ben Chu joins us to discuss the interview, the allegations, and how he thinks Tate handled it. I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime's Sidebar podcast. Andrew Tate sits down with the BBC and combatively denies all of the sex trafficking allegations made against him by prosecutors in Romania. Tate and his brother Tristan face a number of charges. They were released from jail in April following months behind bars. They're now on house arrest as they face charges of rape, human trafficking, and organized crime. Here's a portion of the interview with BBC correspondent Lucy Williamson.
But you have admitted using emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry for you.
No. We have an open criminal investigation. I am absolutely and utterly sure I'll be found innocent. I know the case better than you. I know it intimately and you don't. I have seen all the criminal files and the evidence against me and you haven't. I know the truth of what happened and you don't.
Joining me to discuss Andrew Tate's interview and the charges against him is someone who is very familiar with representing an incredibly high-profile client. He is Ben Chu, and he represented Johnny Depp, you will remember, just over a year ago now in his defamation trial against his ex-wife Amber Heard, and they won that case. Ben, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome, Angenette, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Definitely, yes. We're so glad you could join us. First of all, your thoughts on the case itself. These are pretty serious allegations, and Andrew Tate is denouncing all of these. He's denying all of it.
These are, as you say, Angenette, extremely serious charges. My reaction to his recent interview on the BBC was, as a lawyer, taken aback. I don't think, in light of the serious nature of these charges, I do not think he should be speaking out publicly at this point.
It was a little surprising, and it kind of almost reminded me a little bit of Prince Andrew's interview that he did with the BBC back a couple of years ago regarding allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and some other people. So I guess I'm just thinking, does it remind you of that as well? Maybe not the same tone and tenor, but definitely, he's going to the BBC.
That had not occurred to me, Angenette, but I think that's a spot-on analogy. I mean, obviously, Prince Andrew and Andrew Tate are very different individuals, but the tenor of it was quite similar. And Andrew Tate obviously has had a great deal of success as a kickboxer on TV and as an influencer, so I can understand the self-confidence from which it flows. But I think it's a problem for him to go on the record substantively when his words obviously can and will be used against him. And B, I think his style, where it might suit him well in some arenas, does not suit him well in the judicial arena, especially interrupting a female interviewer, being sarcastic, telling her she's not the boss here, seems to give the impression that there may be some truth to the underlying charges. Whether there is or not, it creates a very bad impression.
One of the quotes from him, he said, "I'm doing you the favor as legacy media, giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, who has no face. Nobody knows who she is. I know." And he's certainly taking a certain tone there. And we know that Andrew Tate has this persona. He's been deplatformed from a number of social media platforms in the past. He's been labeled a misogynist. That kind of quote right there to me was pretty surprising.
I completely agree with you, Angenette, and there are others that we could cite. It's just not a good soundbite for him at this point. Humility, and even more than humility, silence at this point is in order. Let your defense counsel do their jobs. And then if you're exonerated, if the charges are dropped, that may be the time to speak out. Right now is not the time to speak out for him.
It was a little surprising to see him speak out. I mean, his social media presence, his Twitter his Twitter account has posted quite a bit, especially when he was incarcerated, defending him and saying that these allegations are baseless and not true. So I'm a little surprised, but I'm also not. The case is moving forward. There is still kind of in an investigative phase of sorts. Do you expect more to come out of this? Do you expect more charges?
I don't want to speculate as to whether there will be more charges. Just going back to our point, I think he would be better served to focus on his legal defense and hire a good PR firm, and there are many out there, to handle the communications, and leave it all to the professionals.
It's interesting you mention a PR firm and hiring a good PR firm. Did you have that experience with Johnny Depp when representing him?
We did. We had the Hiltzlik firm, Matthew Hiltzlik, and his crew are just outstanding in the communications arena. And that is the kind of firm that he should be hiring.
And I think he is represented by a publicist. I should mention that we have actually requested an interview with his attorneys and with him a few times now, and we have been denied or declined. Our requests have been declined to this point. So where do you see this going, Ben? I mean, the Romanian officials say that they basically have this evidence. They are moving forward toward trial. What do you think happens next?
Well, I think that as you say, it does look like it will go forward to trial, and that's where he should be focused on. No problem to have his attorneys communicate with you and other important voices in the media. He personally should stay out of it. And I think your viewers and most viewers these days are sophisticated enough to understand why a principal himself or herself would not be directly addressing the media, but doing so through his representatives. That's not a cop-out. It's not a dodge. People understand why he would and should be doing it. It's not an indicia of guilt in any way. It's a sign of being smart.
Well, Ben Chu, we appreciate your time and your expertise as always, and thanks for coming on. We hope you'll come back soon.
Hope so. Thanks so much, Angenette. Have a great weekend.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime's Sidebar podcast. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.